Venezuela's National Electoral Council, the CNE, welcomed on Friday a group of international observers ahead of upcoming Sunday's elections. CNE's president Elvis Amoroso highlighted that the observers are renowned intellectuals and personalities from universities of different parts of the world and stressed that they represent another guarantee for the good results of the upcoming elections. Amoroso also emphasized that they will be exceptional witnesses of how a highly democratic and peace-loving people will once again vote to elect their authorities in defense of their sovereignty and self-determination.
Consejo Nacional Electoral.
And as Venezuela prepares for Sunday's election day, we go live to Caracas at this moment, where our correspondent Bruno Falsi has more on this electoral process. Let's go.
I'm Bruno Falsi, correspondent of teleSUR here in Venezuela. Now we found ourselves in the headquarters of the young people here in Venezuela. They are organizing their first popular election, where they're gonna vote for the projects to develop their region, their communes. There are more than 5,338 communes in Venezuela, and the young people gonna choose between 7 projects in each of these communes to be elected in the next Sunday. They're gonna vote 2 of the 7 projects. This is a historical moment in Venezuela, where the young people that are in the power in this government and in this revolutionary process. At the same time, in the Sunday, 27th of July, it's going to happen the municipal election, where 23 political parties of the opposition and 13 political parties of the government clash again in the dispute between Bolivarian power and opposition. There are more than 335 mayors going to be elected, and 2,471 councillors in this fight between opposition and government, showing that here in Venezuela the democracy is not only in votes in the clash between opposition and government, but too in the participative. It's a participative democracy where people construct their lives every day in their regional communes. Here, Bruno Falsi from teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
To celebrate its 20th anniversary, teleSUR presented its book, The Eye of America on the World. In collaboration with the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, ALBA TCP, teleSUR presented the book this Friday. This work showcases the multi-platform's 2-decade journey of news coverage, establishing itself as the voice and image of Latin America and the Global South. During his speech and analysis of the book, the Minister of Communication and Culture, Freddy Ñañez, emphasized that teleSUR has fought to combat hegemony and reveal the truth about what is happening in the world since its inception. In this context, Bolivian President Luis Arce congratulated teleSUR on its 20th anniversary, highlighting the multi-platform's work in denouncing injustices. Through a post on his Telegram account, the head of state shared that we salute the 20th anniversary of teleSUR, a news network that has always stood out for its responsible and truthful coverage of events affecting the world's people. President Arce also added that its courage in seeking the truth and denouncing injustices is essential to defending democracy and building a world with greater social justice for all. Congratulations.
Como se llame Nayib Bukele, el objetivo del fascista es acabar con la condición de lo humano. De ahí la gravedad. De ahí el carácter profundamente patológico.
We're looking at images of Jorge Rodriguez as he is presenting at the People's Summit for Peace and Against War. Let's recall that this peace summit is underway in Caracas at this moment. We are looking at the President of the National Assembly and also leader, chief of the campaign for the upcoming elections in Venezuela, give his main address at this summit for peace and against war. At that moment, he was making reference to the rescuing of the 252 migrants in the leading efforts that Venezuela has carried out in this important rescuing of the Venezuelan migrants that have been brought back from El Salvador. Let's recall that Jorge Rodriguez has been among the leading figures in Venezuela of those migrants that have been kidnapped by the U.S. government. And in that context, let's continue listening to his speech. To be able to survive to the most extreme conditions, two things are necessary: a purpose, an objective, a goal, and to not be allowed to be taken away from love. And thinking with gratefulness with a great feeling of brotherhood with you, because you have been brave in your defense of this revolution, because you have come here and you have raised your voices in the networks and in your territories, showing the truth of Venezuela. Venezuela has been blocked, and you have been following these attacks with anguish. Now we tell you, yes, they put it rough on us, and they put all those sanctions on us in under a year, and they took down our income for oil to a small percentage to what we had before. And they tried to hurt what Chavez and Maduro had been building here. But now we tell you that we have won. We have won. Venezuela is in peace. Venezuela is in a state of grace. Venezuela every day is moving forward to a new way of government, of society, where we all have a voice, where we can all say and we can all decide. A purpose and a deep feeling of love. We heard that from Che Guevara. That's how you can fight against all the injustices in the world, and that is how we are comrades. The love and the purpose. And that is what I would like to continue to invite you in an organic, truthful way, so that not only through our expression and our resistance, and that is a lot also in many of our countries, but also so that this is something of every day, that we become a true front to eradicate with fascism. With fascism, we can make no concessions. With fascism, we cannot live. With fascism, if we try to leave with fascism, we're being complicit. It's as if you would say,
Yo vivo con el psicópata que me
no,
golpea
I live with a psychopath that is
porque,
hitting me.
bueno, vive aquí, en
Because,
esta casa.
okay, that's
Lo que
where
está
he
riesgo es
lives.
su vida, ¿oyó?
You're putting your life at risk.
Si usted tiene un sociópata o
If
un
you
psicópata
are
cerca,
with a
es su vida la que
sociopath
está en
or a
riesgo.
psychopath
Si
nearby,
es un régimen
your
fascista
life
como el de Benjamín
is
Netanyahu,
at risk.
o como el de
If it's
Nayib
a
Bukele,
fascist
lo que
state
está en
like
riesgo
that
es
of
la vida de
Netanyahu
millones de seres
or with
humanos.
Bukele, the life of
También
millions of
eso
human
está
beings
en
are at
riesgo, es
risk.
la existencia de la humanidad
And the
entera.
existence of human being is what is at risk
Dotémonos
right
de
now.
un propósito verdadero
So we have a true
que de
purpose
institución que ya somos, porque
of
todos
this
somos hermanos,
institution
todos
that
nos
we
conocemos,
already have. We are
ustedes
all
nos conocen a
brothers and
nosotros, nosotros
sisters.
nos conocemos
We
a
know
ustedes,
each
y
other. You
ustedes
know
se conocen.
us. We know you, and you
Un
know
verdadero
between you.
propósito real.
It's a true purpose,
¿Qué vamos
a
a hacer?
real purpose. What
Si
are
el
we
gobierno
going
de
to
este
do?
país, en donde
If
yo
the
vivo, es
government
así,
of this
no es
country,
Venezuela. Nosotros tenemos defectos, pero el
it's
fascismo
not
es
Venezuela. We have no fascism, but with fascism,
no
we
es
will
Cuba,
give them
no es
no
Nicaragua,
room. It's not Venezuela, it's not Cuba, it's not
no es
Nicaragua,
Rusia, no es China,
it's not Russia, it's not
no es
China,
Corea del Norte,
it's not North
no
Korea,
es Irán,
it's not Iran,
no es Palestina.
it's not Palestine.
Pero si el gobierno de tu país
But if the government
le
of
vende armas
your
a Netanyahu,
country
¿qué va a hacer este
is
gran frente antifascista?
selling
¿Cuál va a ser
arms
su
to
propósito
Netanyahu,
para oponerse a eso?
what is this anti-fascist front going to do?
Y que todo lo que hagamos
And everything that we
a
do
partir de este momento
from this moment on,
sea por nuestra intención
let it be for our
indoberable
intention
de mantener vivo
of
la
maintaining
llama del amor, que es lo que nos
the
hace
flame of love alive. That is what makes us human. Thank you very much.
Now, the fifth day of protest is underway as part of the national strike called by the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities against the policies of President Guillermo Lazo's government. With more details, our colleague.
3 years have passed and the echo of resistance continues to ring out in the streets, in parks, in the open wounds. The family of Byron Watatuka, one of the 6 protesters killed in June 2022, marched again in Quito, not only to demand justice, but to shut out what the state wanted to silence, that Byron was not a criminal, he was a leader, a father, a man who chose dignity over fear.
He was a good person. He was a hard-working man. He worked. He was putting his children through school. And now he has left his children orphaned. And I still suffer for my grandchildren. You see, I am helping my grandchildren. I am continuing on that path so that they can study.
The national strike was not just a protest, it was the roar of a country that was tired of paying the bills of others. It was the bursting of a pressure cooker built up over years of neglect, exclusion, and structural racism. While Guillermo Lazo's government responded with repression and empty rhetoric, the streets spoke another language, the language of dignity.
Independent media outlets have set a very important precedent that is essential in many cases, because it provides conclusive evidence of what happened, how it happened, and obviously not only in court cases or cases that are being investigated by the prosecutor's office, but also in the national perspective that each of us has regarding what the strike was. It was not the same thing to experience it through the alternative media than through the official channels.
Official channel, mainstream media that reproduce the discourse of power without filters. National television stations repeated images of chaos without context. teleSUR decided to be at the heart of the conflict, to walk with the protesters, to listen to the indigenous communities, record the voices of the women who cooked to sustain the resistance of the young people who confronted rifles with the stones, of the community leaders who instead of weapons carried a list of demands.
The mass media, the private media, present a narrative, and that narrative is their truth, hiding the truth of what is really happening in society as a whole. That is why I believe it is important to have another narrative from community media, alternative media, media that is not aligned with the policies imposed by the International Monetary Fund.
The spark that ignited the revolt was the elimination of subsidies, but the real fuel was something else, the historical neglect. It was 18 days of resistance that do not fit into the dichotomy of good protesters versus violent infiltrators, because the true face of violence is structural, it is neglect. And teleSUR knew how to see it. It did not reduce the protest to a mere story. It narrated it for what it was, a dispute for the right to exist with dignity.
That is why I think it is important the alternative media, the community media, teleSUR, and other media have become a spokesperson, has given a democratic contrast to the stories that are happening in our society. It is absolutely necessary.
Telling that truth had consequences. Our team felt the repression firsthand, but we understood that at that moment it was essential to inform.
In Ecuador, without the presence of media such as teleSUR or others, it would have been impossible to get out the information about what happened in the uprisings of 2019 and 2021, and if that information had not been filtered, we would not have had the tools and the conditions to demand that the state stop the repression and the violence.
That is why teleSUR is uncomfortable, because it dared to challenge the official discussions and also the forgetfulness. Thanks to teleSUR, Ecuador and the world learned the true roadmap of the indigenous movement, not through filters nor distortions, but from the voices of those who trace it. Because to make visible someone is not only to show him, it is to legitimize the word, the rage, and the hope. With images by Henry Villajo,
Elena Rodriguez, teleSUR.
Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa announced on Friday the dismissal of more than 5,000 public employees. Noboa affirmed that the downside is not related to the public integrity law, whose implementation implies further evaluations that could lead to more dismissals. The head of state explained that the employees to be laid off belong to the executive branch, administrative staff, and the Ecuadorian Social Security Institute. The announcement comes after the approval of the public integrity law, a controversial measure facing multiple accusations of unconstitutionality. And the humanitarian organization Doctors Without Borders reported on Friday that about 25% of pregnant women and their nursing infants, as well as children under 5 years of age in the Gaza Strip, suffer from acute malnutrition. According to the international organization, as of May 18th, the number of people in the northern Gaza treated for malnutrition has quadrupled, while cases of severe malnutrition in children under 5 tripled in the last 2 weeks alone. On the other hand, the World Health Organization had warned Wednesday of a drastic increase of death from malnutrition in the Palestinian enclave, where 21 children under 5 years of age have died from it. Venezuela's National Electoral Council, the CNE, welcomed on Friday a group of international observers ahead of upcoming Sunday's elections. CNE's president Elvis Amoroso highlighted that the observers are renowned intellectuals and personalities from universities of different parts of the world, and stressed that they represent another guarantee for the good results of the upcoming elections. Amoroso also emphasized that they will be exceptional witnesses of how a highly democratic and peace-loving people will once again vote to elect their authorities in defense of their sovereignty and self-determination.
Consejo Nacional Electoral.
And as Venezuela prepares for Sunday's election day, we go live to Caracas at this moment, where our correspondent Bruno Falsi has more on this electoral process. Let's go.
I'm Bruno Falsi, correspondent of teleSUR here in Venezuela. Now we found ourselves in the headquarters of the young people here in Venezuela. They are organizing their first popular election, where they're gonna vote for the projects to develop their region, their community.